featuring Bucks County District Attorney. It's time for Justice for All, Behind the Badge video, streamed live from Team Toyota Route 1 in Langhorne with your host, Tom Mellon, featuring Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub and Bucks County Sheriff Fred Herron. Here's your host from Team Toyota, Tom Mellon.
Good morning and welcome to our beautiful program, our special program here in the delightful showroom at Team Toyota. The name of our show, obviously, Justice for All. Our Bucks County District Attorney, Matt Weintraub, will not be with us here today, but we have two delightful guests, Jennifer Schorn, who's the first Assistant District Attorney for the County of Bucks, and we also have Rick Munger, one of our county detectives. Welcome both of you here to the show.
Thank you, Tom.
And we're extremely excited for this program today. As with every program that we do, it's bringing a lot of good information to you, our listenership out there, so that you can understand why, how it functions. We're talking about the Bucks County District Attorney's Office and all of the branches that are formed, such as our county detectives, our local police district, state police, many contributions making Bucks County a very safe place under the leadership and direction of our district attorney. And we have our sheriff, Fred Herron.
That's right.
That's another show that we do, Jen.
Yes.
Rick. It's Behind the Badge with Fred Herron, who for many, many years was the Director of Public Safety in Ben Salem, and now he's our sheriff in Bucks County.
Yes.
But I want to thank Paul Muller, our major sponsor, our sponsor for this show. Here at Team Toyota, we have a special program for our police, our fire, our military, and our medical. Let's not forget the medical. I remember when I worked in East Division in the 25th District, 24th District, if we had a serious traumatic case, someone who needed first aid, well, police officers were not, I know I wasn't trained to do that, and thank God we were able to rush people to the hospital, and that's why our medics, our EMTs are also included in our Heroes program right here at Team Toyota.
Very
nice. A quick shout out to my wife, who's watching my granddaughter today. My daughter's a nurse.
Oh, wonderful.
Come to think of it.
Right.
Brielle, Poppy loves you, and I know that she's listening right now.
How old's Brielle?
Brielle is 3 years old.
Oh.
Yes, but she runs the whole house.
Sure she does.
Yeah, she runs the whole house. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, the boys, and that's Brady and Nicholas, and when she comes down the steps, the TV gets changed to the program she wants to watch, and everything's calmed. She calms everything down.
That's great.
Yeah, she's the leader of the pack. So
That's
Brielle, Poppy loves you, and of course my wife Jerry as well. But I want to discuss this, and we want to begin right away because I know there's a lot to talk about with this special disappearance investigation that occurred from a disappearance of Adam Brundage, I believe.
Yeah, Adam was 26. He was a resident of Quakertown, owned his own home, town home in Quakertown. He was the father of 2 children.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he was not with his ex, but he was very much still a father to his 2 children. He was a bit of a very shy, reserved individual who was a homebody, collected stamps, coin collector. He had suffered a pretty significant loss in that his father died at a relatively young age, and so Adam inherited money as a result.
Sure.
He was able to buy the townhome, a very nice car, but he was floundering between jobs, but able, obviously, given his inheritance, to get by. And in October of 2004, the mother of his children, and they had an amicable relationship.
Sure.
She hadn't heard from him, which was very out of character. And she kept trying to come by the residence, and he would not answer the door.
Oh, boy.
Ultimately, she broke into the residence and realized that Adam was not there, nor were his cats, which were his beloved pets.
Of course.
So she was the one to first indicate that something she believed was wrong, given how atypical this was, especially, unique that Adam was such a homebody. His stepmother, who was very much in his life, the wife of his deceased father, was then notified as well. And she had plans to get together for Adam's birthday. He was going to be turning 27 that month.
Just a few days, yeah.
A few days.
So young.
So young. And that's kind of key because we had a point in time as a reference point. We knew that he had plans specifically to get together with his stepmother. She was going to make his favorite meal. They had discussed those plans. So that coupled with, no communication with his young, very small children, but their mother, his cat's missing, and no response following these birthday plans, it became pretty clear that this was a concerning missing persons case, not someone that looked like they willfully disappeared.
Sure, symptomatic. When you were looking at the characteristics of this young man and the whereabouts, you didn't know anything about.
Yeah, and that's a really hard thing that police face these days. Some people do go missing, especially young adults, sometimes go missing on their own.
Sure.
Sometimes adolescent and teens run away. It's hard to identify when it goes from a missing person case to a criminal investigation.
Wow.
But this was fairly early on. There were strange things occurring when Adam's his stepmother
Okay.
went to the residence. She meets his roommate there. She had spoken to him on the phone.
Yeah.
And got some very strange statements he made to her that, Adam he had drug issues and he went into rehab, which was not at all the case. He was not, other than occasionally using marijuana, he was not a he didn't have a substance abuse issue.
Sure.
He made some inconsistent statements and he was a bit hostile to her. So when she responded to his home, she saw that the roommate was essentially living in the home as if it was his own.
Wow.
And he was actually driving Adam's vehicle as if it was his own.
Yeah, and basically told her, Adam, when he left, gave me this, which, again, didn't make a lot of sense.
This is the Damon that we're talking about now, right?
Yes, his roommate was Damon Smoot.
Damon Smoot.
And at the time, they had only been roommates for about 2 months. And Damon was pretty arrogant. And again, there were a series then of inconsistent statements being told that really sounded the alarm bells. So Donna reported Adam's disappearance to the police. And, you have to consider, Adam at times did struggle a little bit with depression. So you had to consider whether or not, this is someone who,
Sure.
May have done something to harm himself or take his own life.
Of course.
And that always is a challenge in these cases.
Yeah.
But, she realized, no, not at all. He loved the other person that was very much a presence in his life was his paternal grandmother who lived in the Midwest.
Okay.
He spoke to almost daily.
Every day?
Certainly, regularly. And she hadn't heard from him. And there were some plans, I believe, for Thanksgiving for them to get together. So the police start to investigate. And as they interview Damon, they see a series of inconsistent lies. And, it builds from there. And Detective Rick Munger was one of the detectives assigned in 2004 from the county detective
I see.
to assist Quakertown.
You've seen a lot of things, pointing suspicion immediately.
Absolutely. He immediately was a focus, but in an investigation like this, you can't pinpoint on one thing. Every lie he told us, we had to follow up with and decide if it was truth or fiction. But then once we started analyzing cell phone records and we analyzed credit reports, it's very difficult in this day and age to just completely disappear off the map.
Of course.
We didn't believe that he had a whole lot of money that he could live with without using a bank or credit cards or whatever, and everything literally stopped right around October 4th.
So credibility is one thing that you're looking for, and you've seen all these points leading to him. But as you indicated, Rick, you had to follow up on every little statement and nuance that was going on.
Absolutely.
And like you said, Tom, every nuance, and that's ultimately what this case was built on.
Sure.
So in 2004, when Adam's body doesn't surface, but we can absolutely prove that Damon Smoot is lying. Damon Smoot is taking possession of all of Adam's things. Some things were clearly missing from the home, his coin collection. He's living essentially in a home with no heat. The heat had been cut off, and yet still maintaining that this was all with Adam's permission and understanding. So ultimately, despite the phenomenal police work, beyond that, there was not much more that could be done at that juncture.
All circumstantial at this point, at this juncture.
Right.
Exactly.
Nothing physical with evidence or anything with the body or anything.
Yeah, we knew that we were onto something, but at that point in time, as frustrating as it was, we couldn't prove it. And especially going back into that day and time, when we do a prosecution, we have one shot at it. And if we're not ready and we can't prove it, we can't do it again.
No,
So
that's the thing with
Jeopardy.
especially they have double jeopardy, and
Mm-hmm.
with it being a homicide.
Yes.
So
As you were thinking about it being a homicide right away,
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
So ultimately, we ran every lead down that we could, and then the case sadly went cold. And we were just waiting for a point in time that something would occur that we could revive and put life into it, so
Certainly,
that we
certainly.
would have a shot.
And they did just that, Tom, over time. Every opportunity. So the case went cold, but that did not mean that the Bucks County detectives and Quakertown police, that they forgot about the case.
Sure.
Every change in circumstance led us to, an opportunity. And one of the biggest opportunities, there were two. After Adam's disappearance, Damon Smoot gets arrested for committing a sex offense against a minor female, and he goes to the state correctional facility. While he's serving time there, Quakertown detectives go interview him. They attempt to interview him, and he denies having knowledge of Adam's disappearance, tells another series of lies because he can't keep his lies straight.
Right.
But
No consistency at all.
that's key. But keep in mind, we have no crime scene. There was nothing to indicate a homicide occurred in that
A real
house.
difficult one there.
Unbelievably challenging. So just really determination, phenomenal investigative work throughout the years to keep, on top of this case in every opportunity. Ultimately, that rattled his cage, and it proves to be a valuable piece of information later. He gets paroled after serving his time on the sex offense, and he meets this lovely young girl who's working at a pizza shop up near Green Lane. She's a young, beautiful artist who's she's a high school senior, between her junior and senior year summer, and she's college bound for art school, and she has no idea he's a convicted sex offender and that he has extreme violent tendencies. So they engage in a relationship. He's quite a bit older than her. She thinks he just served time in prison for making a mistake with marijuana.
Oh boy.
And so, good family. They end up dating, and it is a living hell for her.
Oh
He
boy.
slowly is insanely jealous. He slowly but surely starts to break her down, and then becomes violent, and he beats her regularly.
Oh.
And she
geez.
doesn't leave. This little high school senior
Yeah, she's
doesn't
very innocent.
doesn't leave him because she fears that he will harm her baby brother.
Oh
She's
boy.
a much younger brother.
Retaliation.
And so she stays in this violent relationship, and ultimately it culminates in, she lands a job the summer after her senior year, before she's planning on going away to art school, and she decides she's going to break up with him.
Oh boy.
And
Can we hold
yes.
just from that point, for our listeners out there, stay with us, because there's a chain of events here that we don't want to lose. We're just going to pause for a moment to say thank you to our sponsors, and we'll return just in a few moments. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, Paul Mellon from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
Hey, this is Jonesy. Kick off your Thursday and Friday evenings in style. Join me for an eclectic freeform mix of the hits and beyond. It's a happening, a musical journey. It's the Glenn Jones Radio Experience, right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, Thursday and Friday, 5 to 6 p.m., directly following the legendary Jerry Blavitt. Radio, the way it ought to be.
We're back with Justice for All, and great show. This cold case, we're going to get right back into it with Rick Munger and Jennifer Schorn. Jennifer, take us right back to this relationship that he had when he got out of prison.
So this is roughly between 2010 and culminating in events in 2012. This young woman's dating him, but slowly but surely is being battered and in unimaginable ways, and not telling anyone. School officials noticed some things, but she would make up excuses. You know, very typical in a situation like this of domestic violence with, you know, the circumstances. Ultimately, she finds the courage to break up with him after she graduates high school and is bound, you know, going to art school.
Sure.
And she secures a job for the summer up in King of Prussia. She calls him, says, I'm done. We're done. It's over.
Yeah.
She had the courage. Well, where are you now? He's pleading with her. I'm driving home. I'll talk to you later. I'm not in the state to talk right now. It's over, but we will talk at some point. Well, he decides to get in his car, leaves Royersford, where he was living, and he literally hides at a very narrow portion of a windy road up, I kid you not, a very rural area.
Ooh.
Wooded, single-lane roads where you have to pull over for opposite drivers, knowing that she would have to take this turn and come through this, like, essentially a bridge.
Yeah.
To get to her home, and he blocks the intersection.
Wow.
And not only did he do that, he kidnapped her cat and put her in the trunk of the car.
Oh, boy.
Prior to. So that shows the intent and the state of mind he already had. And that, again, she thought he was someone who loved animals like she did. She thought he was this vegetarian, all these common things, didn't know his violence.
A real slicky.
Yes, exactly. So he pulls open the cab. She drove a pickup. I love. She was wearing her high heels, just secured an interview, driving a pickup that was her dad's. He batters her, pushes her over the bench seat, and starts pummeling her. She loses teeth.
Oh, my gosh.
Fractures her nose, orbital bone, and he's saying, today's the day you're going to die. Today's the day.
Oh, my God.
And we believe she was going to die that day.
Sure.
He pulls into a rural area where, just by happenstance, there were boys cutting class, drinking in the woods.
Being boys.
Thank goodness.
And they see it, and they try to intervene. And they see a man battering a young woman.
Oh.
And they then alert the neighbors and call the police.
Yes.
And all-out police response from the Pennsylvania State Police, and he feels trapped. So he lets his victim, we're not naming her, he lets her go and marches her into the woods and says he's nervous, and he lets her go and says, no statement, no crime, no statement, no crime, meaning I'll let you go, but it's understood I will kill you if you say what I did.
Ooh.
Ultimately, her father hears the commotion. I mean, it's a very rural area. That he's standing there with the state police, and ultimately she comes running into her father's arms and the state police, and she does give a statement, and he gets arrested and convicted for her kidnapping.
Thank God.
What's key is he makes a statement to her then, and she's terrified to share the complete statement, but about his past and about his roommate and about something he did and involving a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And she reveals some of it. She is in the hospital with her, recovering from her injuries, black eye, broken bones, missing teeth, and makes a partial statement. She's still terrified of this man. Ultimately, not to get into too many details, she moves across the country, changes her name, and lo and behold, when we reopen the case in 2019, we are studying this, and we see an opportunity. Perhaps maybe a lost opportunity, but the timing wasn't right. In 2012, we see an opportunity. And I'll let Rick tell this part because it's pretty cool.
Great.
So we were trying to find this young lady, and the last address we had was in Philadelphia. And interestingly enough, like Adam fell off the face of the earth with data, so did she.
Sure.
The person that I was with, Matt Molchan, who's a detective from Quakertown, came up with a great idea and searched Facebook for this young lady's name. Could not find her, but he found another name, and her last name was so, it was a unique name that we gave it a shot. She was a hairstylist, and we called it. And when the young lady answered the phone, I said, hey, this is going to sound completely ridiculous, and I told her the story. Is this person your sister? And she said, yes, it is. I said, listen, I know that you're not going to give me the telephone number, and I don't expect you to, but could you take my telephone number, give it to her, and ask her to call me?
Smart, yes.
We hung up the phone and sort of laughed at each other and said, let's go get lunch, because we didn't expect a phone call back, and she called.
Wow.
And she basically acknowledged that she had changed her name. She had moved to the West Coast because of fear of Damon Smoot. And we started talking, and she basically said, you know, we had an understanding that Damon killed his roommate. Is that what you want to talk about? And we're like, yeah. What are you doing tomorrow?
Yes.
We set up a quick phone interview so Jen, who was the prosecutor, could hear it firsthand, and we could, you know, put the plan in motion. But that was more than we had ever had, and we were finally feeling like we were going to get our shot.
And you had some physical evidence, although virtual at the time, with this baseball bat. Boy, wouldn't it have been nice if you could get a hold of that?
Yeah, that's the problem when, you know, Damon Smoot was good at what he did in covering up his crimes for quite some time. What he wasn't good at is keeping his lies straight. He told so many lies that we were able to then go back, coupled with now we have a witness to an admission made. And he even went as far as planning on marrying this individual, because then he said, marital privilege, you'll never be able to testify.
Smart little character, huh?
Yeah, and she truly thought she had shared the full story after her traumatic events, but didn't know that she added something new. We didn't know. She insinuated certain things, but she was still living in fear of him at the time.
Sure.
Now she's a little more mature, has lived, you know, years away from him, you know, essentially 7 years later, excuse me. And so that, coupled with then all of the lies he told, we knew he fled after Adam's disappearance. We knew Damon Smoot claims that he and Adam went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where Damon lived for a period of time. And he claimed all these people saw him there, and he and Adam did this, and he and Adam. So
other lies.
Detectives did a phenomenal job closing that loop. Every person he claimed he saw him down there with Adam, I never saw him with anyone. It was a single hotel room with single bed. The clerk said never. It was only one person in and out. His best friends that resided in South Carolina, Damon Smoot's best friends, nope, he was never there with it. And Adam was a very small individual. He suffered from growth issues as a child.
Spinal issues.
And he took growth hormones. So he was pretty unique in that you would notice this, you know, smaller, slight of build individual.
Of course.
So we started proving the lies, building our case, calling people into grand jury, and we were doing some pretty, now mind you, Damon Smoot is in a state correctional facility at Frackville. So we knew where he was. We were monitoring.
He was under control.
He was under control for the time, so it gave us time to develop our case. We were monitoring his non-privileged communications. Rick literally had the ability to monitor it within minutes of the calls, and you got a better sense of the person, and we were building the case in our investigating grand jury, and in secret, not, you know, even providing false hope to the family. We wanted to just work the case to see if we could get to where we needed to be. We had this witness come in that we mentioned, the victim of the domestic, and the grand jurors were moved to tears.
They literally were crying during her testimony.
Oh,
it was that compelling.
This beautiful young woman reliving what she endured as a senior in high school and felt she had no voice. And they had you know, already heard the case as it relates to Adam's disappearance. So then, this is a kind of funny twist, and if we're okay on time, we had one of the inmates that back when the police went to the correctional facility when he was first serving a sentence, we identified, based on some reports we found, where he gave a statement that seems like that he knew more than what, that he gave a pretty good statement saying
Sure.
that Damon was rattled that day, and Damon made, certain statements that were concerning. So we go to find this individual. Now, this individual was a fellow sex offender who was out on parole living in Kentucky, who was on the block with Damon at the time, years prior. And
Great opportunities.
great opportunity,
Yeah.
From your past
Yes,
in
from
law
my past.
enforcement,
You're right. They can kibitz a little bit and before you know
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And particularly when we're creating a pressure scenario.
Yes.
You're putting the pressure, and so he thought this was several years after Adam's murder that he got away with it, and he's in the state facility, and Quakertown detectives come back. So Detective Munger and our dear colleague who has since retired, Detective Mike Walp, with the county detectives, go identify where this individual is residing in Kentucky. And
Wow.
he has a parole officer.
Yeah, lucky enough he had a parole officer, so we just scheduled
There was a nice
a
link.
parole meeting, and
Sure.
we were there. And after 15 minutes of talking to him, Mike and I looked at each other and we're like, wow.
This is
And
great.
he had good information as well. And, we were taking a piece here and a piece there, but it was just becoming, much better than we even anticipated.
Sure. All the pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we laugh at the part with the inmate who was a Pennsylvania inmate, transferred his parole to Kentucky. We do all of this paperwork to it's called interstate compact. You have to do with other jurisdictions to subpoena the witness to come up to Pennsylvania, to Bucks County.
Sure.
And when Rick and our colleague Mike go down, his parole officer's like, oh, he's in essentially north of Lambertville in New Jersey on a job site.
Oh my goodness.
He got special permission, so literally we could have biked there quicker.
Yeah.
But and he was very cooperative, and his reasoning for being cooperative is I wanted to believe that Damon was a different person because we were both on the block, we were both trying to rehabilitate, and he said, but I didn't know the capacity for violence. And he said he made these admissions to me, but then he tried to later, recant or minimize. And so he's like, I didn't know his capacity for violence. But then when I knew what he did to his girlfriend and
Wow.
beating her so bad, that's when he made a report.
Yeah.
And that report kind of it was years later, but
course.
that inmate came forward. I mean, he is a convicted sex offender,
Sure.
but he gave credible information.
That's the word.
Credible.
Credibility. Yeah.
And he doesn't know what we already know, and he doesn't know what others are saying, and these individuals who don't know one another, and turns out they are saying the consistent things.
Corroborating evidence now.
Exactly.
It's a lot different than, all the lies that you were hearing that were all inconsistent from Adam.
Yeah, so we were prepared. We were putting the case in, knowing.
No, from Damon, forgive me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
We were prepared for what may be a no-body homicide. We were painting this picture that was so abundantly clear, and we're obviously, not getting into every piece of evidence, but we had some other investigative tools up our sleeve, some that I can't speak of.
Right,
but
right,
we're
of course.
very creative.
Well, we're going to take a quick break on that, and we're going to carry this much further. We're getting closer and closer to the pinnacle here of what occurred and the prosecution and other things that developed with this very unique case. Don't go anywhere. We'll return after a few words from our sponsor.
Hi, Paul Mellon from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Opinions matter, and so does yours. Hi, I'm Joe Fabrizi, inviting you to join us every Monday at 1 p.m. for Opinions Matter, right here on 1490 AM WBCB. Opinions Matter is now live streamed at WBCB1490.com. We want to hear from you because your opinion does matter.
Are you a parrot head?
Away again in Margarita.
Not that kind.
Oi dana, my love to papuga.
That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
We're back here with Jennifer Schorn and Rick Munger with this very powerful, stimulating, countless chains of events here that led up to the prosecution of a homicide over a period of 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
So let's get right back to where we left off, Jen.
So we had the case as mentioned in our investigating grand jury, and we were using resources outside of the grand jury, and and obviously, countless parallel resources being utilized. And the key about this grand jury is it's not an indicting; it's an investigative grand jury. It allows us to compel witnesses to come forward who might not otherwise do it of their own volition.
Sure.
Now, if someone has a Fifth Amendment privilege that is told to them,
They can exercise it.
they
right?
can exercise it. Every witness, everyone, whether they are the focus of the investigation or not, has a right to counsel that they're told by a judge, will give you counsel today, and all of those rights are bestowed upon each witness. We had a couple of, because Damon spent a lot of time with a lot of young women when he committed Adam's murder, we knew that there were some young women that now are a little bit more mature that were essentially associating with him because he was providing them alcohol, he was providing them drugs,
Sure.
that we believe they possess knowledge as well. And
Fantastic.
we put them in, and we knew they were lying. One was a young mother now, one was newly married and had her partner, waiting outside the courtroom. It was obvious to us and the grand jury that they in fact did possess knowledge, and that they may have, it wasn't clear if they had helped him or not, but they possessed knowledge and they were lying. It was so obvious from every
Of course.
nonverbal cue
Of course.
and the inconsistencies they said. So we planned to call them back to the grand jury when we had evidence to confront them with.
Still an investigating
Investigating
grand jury.
And we did so the same day we brought Damon Smoot in from a state correctional facility.
Wow.
We subpoenaed him.
Okay.
He had counsel. He exercised that right.
Good.
He had a Fifth Amendment privilege. He had every right to exercise that right. But we believe at this point the pressures and the evidence and the information that we had was creating a pressure cooker. And
He's ready to explode.
He's ready to explode. And ultimately, having seen the witnesses that were also being brought in and administered the oath to go into the grand jury, the young women having
great psychological edge.
Yes.
And you could see his body language just fail as soon as they made eye contact.
Wow.
And at that point, I think we knew we were doing pretty well.
Getting very close.
So there were some unforeseen delays. It was one of those crazy days where there were unforeseen delays in the grand jury, and there's a judge that administers, and we have to, respect the rules, which are very important to, maintain control. The judge maintains control over grand jury. So needless to say, we had all these things working in our favor and a couple of delays that were beyond our control.
Sure.
But Damon was given a private attorney to represent him, a very, very skilled private attorney, Keith Williams, who is on the conflict list, meaning if the public defender's office can't represent, some private attorneys will take cases and the county will pay them because there was a conflict. So there was a conflict the public defenders could not. So this very skilled attorney wanted to hear what we had and wanted his client to get a sneak peek because we were going to be forced to put him in the following week because of these delays.
We ran out of time.
We ran out of time, and we were devastated because we were prepared.
So
we were
close.
so close. So we opted, and as per their request, we laid everything out for them in just a conference room in our office. Fact after fact that we know you did go to South Carolina with Adam. We know that Adam was already dead. We know that this person that you said saw you with Adam said you lied. We know this person said you lied. We know you did this. We know you did this. We now know what you did. And we went fact after
She did that for 30 minutes straight.
Really?
30 minutes.
Persistence.
And,
That's great.
he was beaten at that point.
Oh, yeah.
We left the room and
And the key thing is, and we don't ever take this lightly, but there is always a ceiling to what the penalty is, but the floor remains to be determined when you have some leverage.
Yeah.
And in this case, the biggest leverage is we didn't have Adam's body.
No.
His family never had those answers as to what happened and where and why. And so we
So
knew.
sad.
It's so sad. And, his children, who are now adults, his babies were young adults at the time. So we knew that he had some leverage, and we wanted to leverage that because we knew it would be worth us to come down off of what could potentially be the most severe penalty, which would be first degree and potentially a capital case,
Yes.
to see if we could leverage producing Adam's remains.
That was everything to us, really. I mean, I can't imagine a family, not only losing someone, but not knowing where they are, being able to give them a proper burial, any of that. So that was huge.
Of course.
As the day was playing out, we thought that, we had struck out. But in hindsight, it was the perfect storm. Like, everything happened, and it benefited us. Even at the time, we didn't know it, but it did.
It did. And I got to say, so this is right after the Christmas holidays, and we had been, I'll never forget, it was like a war room prior to bringing him in. That's your final play. That is your final opportunity in grand jury. Your case is pretty much done, and this is the final component. And I'll never forget, we were literally right before and during the holidays planning it was an orchestrated effort to make sure every investigative resource was available to us. And so this was not the play we thought we would have.
It wasn't how we choreographed it.
No.
But we were ready. And ultimately, he broke down, and with the advice of counsel, he asked to speak to his counsel.
Still with this Keith Williams
Still with this Keith.
representing?
And when I say, Keith Williams has tried countless murder cases. He spent a career as a criminal defense attorney.
He's a very good one.
Very effective criminal defense attorney. We knew that, he was advocating for his client, but he heard the evidence.
Yeah.
He knew
what was going on.
What was going to happen. And once that grand jury presents on that case, on first degree and the potential penalty of death, all of those things are on the table. It's hard to go backwards and then say, oh, but I cooperated when you hadn't. Or, so he proffered. And Matt Weintraub, our boss, was waiting in the ready. He was on the ready, I should say, waiting to sit down, and he's the glue that brings it all together.
Yeah.
And so we had Rick, we had Mike Wapp, our colleague, and then Matt Molsham from Quakertown, who we failed to mention earlier. He was not one of the original. He wasn't a detective in
patrolman, right?
He was a patrolman when the case first happened. He later came to detectives, and he said, "Hey, having watched some other cases that we successfully, solved that went cold, he said, I think we can give a go at this." So we regrouped, got our team together. And Matt just since retired, so otherwise I'd probably ask for two more seats at the table here.
Right.
And Jen hit it. When we do cases like this, what's most important for us is to develop a team. Ironically, we're sitting in Team Toyota, but if you can develop a good team and get a good strategy, there's very little that you can't accomplish.
Boy, that's true. You had all the necessary links that made it that chain very strong.
But I can tell you the last 3 months of this investigation, like it was 24/7. Like, we would go to bed. It would be nothing to be having a phone conversation with Jen at 11 o'clock at night about something we're going to do the following day.
It was important, critical.
We went to bed thinking about it. We woke up thinking about it, and but the ultimate that we could come up with it, we gave it our all.
And so we now are at the table, and Matt's in the room, and we reach an agreement. And the agreement is he'll give a full confession and we still didn't know the what. We knew the ultimate outcome, but I should say, and we knew the why. We believed we knew the why. It was, his money. Adam was an easy victim. Damon had violent rages. We knew, but we didn't know what actually happened. So that was the first time we heard what happened. And Matt and the defendant with his counsel, we signed the agreement to this proffer. And the key is he will help us find Adam's remains. If he chooses to elect his right to trial, which is in fact his right, we'll be able to use his statement against him. If he chooses to go back on the agreement, and what he got out of it was a substantially reduced sentence to third-degree murder. So in Pennsylvania, felony murder was inapplicable, which is second degree, so it's either first or third.
Okay.
We knew we had to give up something. We also know that for Damon Smoot, it's a life sentence because he's
Yes.
still serving the kidnapping. He's still serving the back time for his
All
parole violations.
concurrent, I guess.
All consecutive, yes.
Consecutive, yeah.
So we knew that it was important for us, and so we now hear that what happened. Damon Smoot worked at a quarry in Hilltown. His father also worked there. His father, though, was cooperated with law enforcement. I should say that. And H&K Quarry, Haynes and Kibble House, they were true professionals.
Couldn't have been more accommodating for us.
This
Cooperated with everything.
everything. I've never been inside the belly of a quarry, and this is one massive operation.
It's like a town.
It's a town. There's 3 or 4 different tiers. At the top tier, there's an asphalt plant. Then there's another tier where they're, harvesting the rocks or harvesting. I don't know if that's the right term. Then there's another tier, and there's gravel pits, and it is an operation that is just, you see dump trucks pulling in and pulling out, and you never realize that it's.
And it had to have been hundreds of acres, and there's ponds and stuff within this thing. We took our drone up to do some pre-planning, and it's just massive.
And so what Damon Smoot says is that, we knew his father had gotten him this job at the quarry, that Damon was screwing up, constantly in trouble, and he moved up to Pennsylvania where his father lived, and his father tried to get him on the right path. Mother and her family lived in South Carolina, and Mom had some troubles.
Sure.
And lo and behold, Damon said that he and Adam were taking some sand for the quarry to pack an air conditioning unit outside Adam's house that was leaking. Whether that was true or not, it could have been.
Could have been another lie.
A lie and a ploy to get Adam there. But he said that Adam walked over to where this sand pit was, that there was an argument, and that Damon had it, went to the truck, grabbed a baseball bat, while Adam had his back turned. And mind you, he's a very short individual.
Sure.
He's 5 foot tall.
130 or something.
Yeah, 130 pounds, that he smashes the back of his skull in with the baseball bat. But then Adam is still alive. It's a fatal blow. It would have killed him, but he's still alive. And then he asphyxiated him. And for us, that was chilling to hear that.
To hear all these details.
These details.
Gory.
And he almost said it in a way like to put him out, to put him down, essentially. Like, I did it. I did it, and I know it was a fatal blow, but then I couldn't stand to see him still gasping and trying to fight for life. So then he asphyxiated him. And then he went and it was after hours. That's why they were taking sand, which he shouldn't have been doing. And he had 24/7 access to the quarry. That's not the quarry's fault. It would be impossible for employees not to have access. Nobody could have envisioned this. So he went and took the backhoe. He pushed, Adam's body up against the side wall of the quarry, and he said materials, and this becomes relevant, on top of the body, and then he ultimately buried him in the quarry.
Cold patch, right?
Yes.
Which would almost be like asphalt that.
Yes.
When it hardens, it's like cement.
Oh my God!
And we didn't know that at the time, though, because he used the word materials. And it becomes relevant later.
Yes.
He then builds, covers it up with the gravel and the dirt and everything that's in the quarry, and it's against the far wall of the quarry. So, I know that we're getting close to a break.
That's
but,
okay.
The pre-planning that Detective Munger and, with obviously our blessing with our boss, Matt, and our chief accounting detectives, Rick, and our colleagues just planned like you could not believe. But then he brought in one of the pros from the FBI.
The best of the best.
The best of the best, who we've had the privilege to work with.
Right.
He's with the FBI Evidence Recovery Team, and he did the DiNardo farm.
Oh boy, it's so similar to a degree.
So similar.
It really is.
It's so similar. We said that. Yes. The only connection was, just meeting the wrong person, and similar. I know we're about ready to.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back to finish this up, because it's so important for the listenership to understand the importance of our investigative team here in Bucks County that keeps this county very safe. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the safety of Bucks County when you compare it to that of many other counties in Pennsylvania. But we'll be right back. I want to hear this resounding ending here, and we'll return in a few moments.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Hi, this is Mayor Jeff Martin of Hamilton Township, inviting you to tune in to our monthly radio show, This Month in Hamilton. Video stream live the fourth Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. at WBCB1490.com. We will be featuring various guests from Hamilton Township to keep you up to date on what's going on in Hamilton.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer County since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We're back with Justice for All with our first assistant district attorney here in Bucks County, Jennifer Schorn, and Rick Munger, our Bucks County detective, who they just did a phenomenal job here over the years, and it's a blessing for our listenership, you listening right now, to understand the hard work that goes behind keeping people accountable when a crime is committed. We're going to get right back to Jennifer and Rick here.
Yeah, so I think where we left off was the planning now to locate Adam's remains,
Yes.
based on Damon Smoot's confession. And
Right.
what we did was we got the confession. It was late at night. I mean, we were there for quite some time that evening, so we got the confession. The next day, we regrouped and met with him. He's obviously in custody, in cuffs.
Sure.
To
Where he
provide
belongs.
where he belongs, to provide specific details so that now the professionals, the men and women that work on evidence recovery, and Rick will get into that, someone who is just so highly regarded that we have the privilege to work with again, was called out to assist and run the show. But one interesting thing that was odd that I forgot to mention, the night he confesses, at the end, he almost seemed like he unburdened himself, and I'm sure you know this.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real thing. Like, physically, they unburden themselves because the lies and the stress of the chase, for lack of a better term.
Of course.
And then it was so odd. He looked at all of us, and he looked at the detectives in particular, and he thanked us all. And he said, I respect police, and in fact, I often think, and this was kind of sad, although he's a killer, and
Of course.
he said, I often think I would have liked to have been a police officer if things were different in my life, and it's not right. People are shooting at you, and it's not right.
Oh, my God.
It was
What a
so
twist there.
It was so strange.
Yeah.
It was a very strange thing. So needless to say, we had to continue to meet with this individual who just admitted to committing this heinous crime with a horrible past as well.
Sure.
And he kept his part. He not only provided specific details, we brought him out to the quarry then. While we were waiting for this phenomenal team from the FBI to, they
Wow.
bring in men and women from all over under the leadership of Mike Burns from the evidence recovery team of the FBI, who just recently retired. And we had to wait because there were so many factors, the live wires in the quarry and the safety aspect. So we brought Damon out, and he was showing us exactly where the body was, and it was
Pinpoint.
No kidding.
It took probably several hours when the team did come out under Mike's leadership. And what was really cool, there was a cadaver dog we brought out beforehand from the Pennsylvania State Police, Trooper Joe Carlson, and his dog. And we knew we had information, but we also knew it could help because what Damon thought the growth of the quarry was at the time, he thought, Adam's remains were about this high, 3 feet high, but they keep adding,
Oh, my God.
material.
Over the years.
25 feet high
It's
now.
25 feet high, and there's like these scrubby trees that grow, but there's this one tree that's just growing beyond like all of the others, like
Wow.
double the size. And the cadaver dog at first wasn't hitting, but 16 years later, after they aerated the ground, he starts doing this dance up the tree,
Yeah.
not even having his legs on the tree, sniffing the air, it was chilling to watch.
My goodness.
And the trooper, he didn't know what it was. He says, it looks like an indication, but I've never seen my dog do this.
It's a young dog.
Yeah, it was a brand new dog. And, you know, looking back at it, the tree that was twice the size, I think that's because it was getting nutrients that
From the body.
from the body.
And lo and
Jeez.
behold, and that what the trooper said now is, and just so worth mentioning, and this is credit to Mike Burns from the FBI. He said there are 2 dogs that the FBI certifies that that we use. There's 3 now. There were 3 now. 2 are in this region: Pennsylvania State Police and New Jersey State Police. You are so fortunate. These cadaver dogs can identify human remains in their trainings over 100 years old. And lo and behold, I mean, obviously we had a sense of where Adam was,
Sure.
but that dog was spot on.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly young dog, this cadaver dog, and they can discern. There's a carcass of a bird, walks right by, doesn't even stop, doesn't sniff,
Not paying attention.
not paying attention. And so, and these phenomenal men and women. I'll never forget being at the quarry. We had to wrap up in grand jury, so I was in grand jury that morning, ran over to meet the detectives in the quarry, and you know, it took hours still, but Mike pulls us aside and said, "Do you remember? Did Damon say anything about like anything concrete?" And I said, "Yes. In fact, the barriers that you see, like mulch contained in."
Yes.
I said he did say that
Yeah.
in our meeting yesterday, and he goes, "I see. Because we were feeling kind of like, what is happening? Why are we not finding these remains? Because they work painstakingly, layer through layer."
Sure.
He says, "I see one down there." So we only told the 3 of us, or the 4 of us. So we kind of huddle up together, and there's people 15 feet high on the top of the area where they're searching, and we see the universal sign for stop, and then I see a shoe,
Oh my God.
and then
But interestingly enough, not 5 minutes before this, we had a quick meeting and we were going to call it for the day. The FBI has strict protocol that once they find the piece of evidence, it's a 24/7 operation. Now, when we did this, it was January 17th.
yeah,
It was probably one of the coldest days of my life.
Oh my God.
And in the bottom of a quarry with everything stone just intensified it.
a freezer.
Oh my God.
So we collectively said, we're going to take this to 4:30, and then we're going to call it for the day. We still would have a police presence there that
Sure.
nobody could go in or out. But the team, I mean, they had been working there since 6 in the morning.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, there had to have been 40 between county detectives, the FBI evidence response team,
Sure.
and Mike Burns even brought in a special team from all across the country that was a safety team. All their job is to make sure that everything we were doing was safe, that we weren't going to create, because when you start digging, you can collapse on
Oh my
people.
goodness. Yes.
And
easily.
The other thing, the environmental aspect, we had to run people in crews because it was so cold. But all of this stuff that's going on behind the scenes it's just amazing, and it's amazing how many people you can eat up
In an
doing
operation
these
like that.
operations.
Yeah.
And the quarry, the men and women from the quarry, who are the experts in, as far as their quarry, they assisted us.
Yeah.
So we had this team of, phenomenal county detectives who I have the privilege to work with each day. Men and women from the FBI evidence response team, the quarry, brains, for lack
Sure.
of a better term, who
Sure.
know the operations, all giving their time, and ultimately after recovering the shoe, it was obvious there was Adam's, there were
Remains.
bones, the remains, and then ultimately his whole body was recovered. And it was almost when we mistook materials for like sand and gravel, but it was the asphalt from the hot asphalt, at the end of the night that he poured over Adam. So Adam, it almost left like a fossil-like
Yes.
impression into this. It was just really
That's a fascinating forensic
Yeah.
view. I
yeah,
It was powerful.
mean, yeah.
it was really powerful. And
So you found the remains.
found the
eventually.
remains. And I should say that on the evening that we got the confession from Damon Smoot, we didn't even tell Adam's family that we were going into the grand jury, because you never want to provide false hope. These
Oh my
family
God,
members,
it would have been horrible.
yeah, and if we weren't able to achieve what we had hoped, So now it's accelerated because we have a confession. We have what will be a plea, but we want to, but it is a negotiation to recover Adam's remains. And so we made the phone calls and communicated with the family, and I mean, it was a whirlwind. And then ultimately, he pled guilty in September of 2020 and received the maximum penalty, which was part of the negotiation, for third degree and consecutive to his crimes. And then the family had their opportunity to speak. His grandmother from the Midwest, his stepmother, elected not to be there because she was, she was our champion. She did. There were reasons, but his sister was there, and the family said that it was important for the remains to be buried with his father in the Midwest, in his father's grave. So it was one of those cases that, just like, we have not forgotten you. Even though he was had a small circle of close loved ones, not a big circle of friends. No one out. Like Rick brought this up last night when we were talking, missing persons. We've had quite a few of them in Bucks County, and we've been tremendously successful. Search parties.
The hard work.
The hard work. Social media helps now with search parties and people, demanding. And Adam didn't have that, but he had the best team of detectives.
Oh,
and we had the best bosses for allowing us to do what we did.
Can't say enough about the team that we assembled and what we were able to accomplish. And it was seemingly, although it took a long time on paper, once we got going, I mean, we knew what the ultimate thing was. We were just trying to build the best case scenario so that when we did this, it would work. And
family closure, I mean, it's gratifying just for them to have some type of dignity knowing where the body is.
And secondarily,
that to rest, finally.
Yeah.
Secondarily, I wanted closure. I mean,
of course I'm
getting close to retirement. I don't want to leave knowing that there was a case that I know who did it, but couldn't prove it.
But couldn't prove it. Knowing and hearing a lot about your characteristics, you probably would have, after retirement, still went out there and started investigating on your own.
It was great. We had some moments where, some of the ideas that Rick and his colleagues brought to the table were just phenomenal.
Now, this guy that's in prison, this animal, he's serving consecutive terms for the sexual assault, kidnapping, battery, assault, and now third-degree murder.
Yeah.
What are all the concurrent terms? What are they adding up to?
He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. I don't have the exact number.
That's all right, as long as it's something.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because he committed the kidnapping while on supervision, so he got violated for that original offense. And so, all of those consecutive, was the certainty we needed to know that he would not harm another individual.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you, Jen. We're going to have many more stories with the two of us. That's for sure.
My pleasure. Thank you for
Rick,
having us.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Oh my God, it's an honor for me as well, being a retired police officer, to hear these stories. Just remember, for our listenership, the most important thing, it's Bucks County is a beautiful place to reside and a beautiful place to visit, with a zero tolerance for crime here. Because if you're going to commit a crime, we will find you, and you're going to pay. You're going to pay for the crime. This is Tom Mellon on behalf of Team Toyota here. Paul Muller, our sponsor. Rick Munger, Jennifer Schorn, myself. We're pleased that you were here to listen to this wonderful, closure that the family had. And we'll have many more stories and many more events that we're going to share with you. As I say at the end of all my shows, be safe, stay well. Don't text while you drive. I can tell you some stories about, even with my job here. Don't text while you drive. Accidents occur so easily. Jerry, I'm coming home to walk the dog. And always have to let her know that. And most importantly, God bless America.